I think one of the things that helps you do is keep going because it's tough. It is hard. There are times when it is lean, but you have to know that this is my passion and I have to go towards it. And hopefully you're doing a job that you love. That's the thing about it. It's not really a job. I love doing this anyway. As a business owner, I think it's good to have that because you don't give up. You don't say it's hard, it's tough, I don't want to do it. You fight through that. When you're working in something that's your passion and it keeps you going. It can get very, very tough. So you need to have that spark that keeps you going.
Welcome to the Rabasha Family Podcast. We have a very, very, very special guest in the building. We have the one and only Adrian Griffith. Now, this is a very special episode because Adrian didn't grow up in a boardroom. He grew up on the cricket fields in the Caribbean and he learned about the pressure, teamwork, resilience long before he ever learned about business strategy. The fields became his classroom. One thing that it taught him was leadership before he had a title, structure before he understood operations, and the importance of performing when it matters most. Because we all here understand what it takes to be able to perform. Years later, these lessons carried him through the opening and the batting of the West Indies to leading global operations at the International Cricket Council, where he spent over a decade shaping world cricket. He delivered governance, technology, officiating systems, managed US dollars 20 million operational budgets, and helped deliver Cricket World Cups across 5 continents. More than anything, he learned how to turn vision into execution with clarity, accountability, and purpose. Now, for so many CEOs who are here watching, this is exactly the strategy and depth that you need. In 2023, he launched AGC to bring that same discipline and structure to organizations within and beyond sport. And today, as a fractional COO, he works with corporations, sport entities, and governments to help them operate smarter, grow faster, and perform under pressure. To simply break down what Adrian does: strategy, aligning vision, priorities, execution for growth, operations, building structure and systems that drive performance, governance, creating frameworks for trust and accountability, leadership, guiding teams to deliver results with clarity and focus. Whether it's a global federation, a fast growing business, or natural infrastructure project, Adrian's mission is simple. He helps organizations perform like elite teams, disciplined, aligned, and built to last. So, Adrian, it is a pleasure to have you on. I relate to you being a footballer myself, the mindset, you're structured, on time all the time, you have the vision, and we can't wait for you to be able to just give us so much value. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. So, can you take it all the way back? I just gave such an amazing intro about you, which is very true. Can you take us back? Because, I think the lessons of sports and, coming from such a discipline relates so much into business because, like sports, is an avenue of life. So, can you take us all the way back to Adrian as a child and how you grew up and how you became where you are now? Marketing is all about storytelling. Dad, when we first started this business, what did you say to me?
I said, yes, we do a podcast
Why?
because I want to tell our story.
Why?
Because I know the story builds a legacy.
Builds a legacy. And that is exactly what we do here at ETS Rabasha Media. We market your story on social media so you could build a legacy for those who come after you, to build your business and your personal brand.
Yeah, follow us on our platform. Go on our website, etsrabashamedia.com.
This is about legacy, and it is about showing up on social media every single day, because if you don't show up, your competition will.
Yeah, I think one of the things, obviously, lucky to grow up on lovely island of Barbados, and just happen to have that heritage of cricketers who were world class, even for a small island that we've had many of them. Even more fortunate to grow up in a village, a little area where Desmond Haynes was obviously our main export, but we had many before that. So I was, like I said, lucky to be able to grow up in that environment, have that proximity to Desmond. But it also started with my family. My mother and father were very active in sports. My mother played hockey and netball for Barbados. My father played cricket and tennis. And that's how I grew up. I grew up playing tennis and cricket and having to choose one when I was 17 because they started to clash. But I always wanted to play cricket for the West Indies. I always knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I just worked towards that. So I think that's where the discipline comes in because You don't just get to the top just by saying you want to do it. You have to, you have to sacrifice and you have to do the work in order to get there. So when my friends were every Saturday going to the cinema and enjoying time, I was going to cricket, and I just knew that's what I had to do if I wanted to get where I wanted to get to. So no drinking, no smoking, no late nights, no getting up early and doing the training and putting in the work. So I think that's what's guided my life. Sports, which brought in discipline, and then obviously working with people, having to understand different ways people like to, you to handle them, to deal with them in different situations. So yeah, sports has been very big in my life, and it's basically gotten me to where I am today.
And how was your routine? Like, you knew you had to be good, you knew you had to put in the repetition. So, what was your routine like when it came to training, and how did you approach your training?
Obviously, when you're involved in a sport, there are set times and set trainings, but I did extra. Um, I would get up a little bit earlier. Again, like I said, fortunate the guys in my area would get up with me at 5:30. I would go and pick them up, and we were going on the hard court, and they would bowl at me for 2.5 hours. I would go home, have breakfast, and then head to Kensington Oval, where practice start at 9 o'clock, and then train with the Barbados teams. It's just things like that, knowing that it just doesn't happen. You have to put in the work. But I think one of the lessons there as well is that you have to have the right people around you as well, and people who want to see you go forward. And those guys were with me, and it's because of them as well that we succeeded. So I remember when I scored my test 100, I didn't the one who scored it, but those guys in Hordles Hill, it was ours, because if it wasn't for them, I probably would not have done that, and be in that shape to be able to do that.
And I find it interesting because coming from being a footballer and then now translating that into business, you're training and you're doing the afters and you're doing all that work. But let's say on the field, you have to take a rest. You can't just be training from 9 a.m. all the way to evening. In business, is a little bit different because, like, I can just keep going. I can start very, very early and finish very, very late. So, how did you find that transition? Which is something that I really want to talk about, which a lot of people struggle with, but at least you had a plan. But now, is it easier for you running a business than it was being an athlete because you can just go all in? Like, what do you
Yeah.
find the difference?
Well, I played cricket, and I played Test cricket. So we were there from 7:30 to 6 o'clock. So we were in for the long haul anyway. So I think a lot that's translated, because you know that you're there, and if you have a job to do, you do it. So, but the thing about me as well is I know when to take breaks as well, because you can't be switched on all the time, otherwise you burn out, and then you become less productive as well. One of the things that I build into it is that I take a break, go away for like 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, just do something completely different, and then come back. Otherwise, you just keep going, you don't stop. And it's not good. You put pressure on yourself, but then you need to refresh yourself as well. So sometimes you just go away and come back, and then ideas come back and stuff like that. So I was very, very good, I would say, at knowing when it's time to just take a break, refresh, and then come back.
What did you learn about pressure?
Well, as you would know, as a footballer, and playing for the West Indies, it's just there's pressure on you all the time, and people want to see you do well. I've heard everything under the sun that somebody could say to you when they're not happy with you. But then there's also the added pressure of you that you put on yourself, wanting to do well because you want to stay in the team. So having to learn to navigate that. I think I wasn't always good at it, because your identity is linked to what you do as a cricketer, as a sports person. So if you do well, you're happy, but if you don't do well, you take it on personally. And like I mentioned before, I think I was fortunate to have to find out and be able to get that balance in between. And it was my mother really that got me to see it, because no matter how well or poorly I did, whenever I went home, I was just Adrian. So I was able to separate those two from it, and be able to just say, look, this is a game. You play the game, but it's not who you are. So don't pressurize yourself. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. Just give everything that you have. And if it works out for you, it works out for you. If not, you come back the next day and you try again. So once you learn from what mistakes you've made, just keep going. But it's not easy. It's easier said than done. I think I was, like I said, I was lucky. but you need to be able to separate it and understand that this is what we do, and just make sure that you're putting yourself in the right position and the right mentality to be able to perform when the pressure does come to, or the perceived pressure, because that's what it is. Basically, it's a bat and a ball, and that's what you do. But the pressure is you put pressure on yourself because you want to do well. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that, and then you start to get negative. So you stay positive, or just I think be mindful and understand it is just this is just what it is, and don't make it any more than that.
It's very interesting the way you're saying that, because the same thing when I played football, the same, and then you're so passionate about what you do. If you have a good game, you're happy. You come back. If you have a bad game, you're upset.
Yeah,
You don't want to talk to one. But you know what I realized? The same as I can do that in business. I've had
yes,
periods in my business where I'm like, what the hell is happening? We're struggling. But in my life, I don't know if I feel less of, but yes, it's that same correlation, right? So I'm even thinking now, oh my goodness, yes, I have done that a little bit in the business world where business is going up. Oh, I feel like I'm the man, if it's not going so good, you feel less. And so how does a CEO manage just even that? How does one manage that pressure? Your team, your employees, you got family, you're trying to keep the business afloat. A lot of people have seen a very tough year for some people economically with cost of living going higher, so what would be your advice for the CEO there? Because I feel it's so related within the sports and the
yeah.
business world.
I will say have a good support system. Like I mentioned before, know when to back off a bit and give yourself a little bit of space. But it also helps to have good people around you that can bring you back and ground you, but also that you can feed off of. Mentor, coach, whatever you want to call them, even your wife, your spouse, your partner, to be able to just to back off a little bit, have some vent if you need to, because I think that's important sometimes. But just again, just remember that you're there for a reason, and you're there because you can do it. It may be tough, but you just need to look at it from a different angle, maybe a different perspective, and just work your way through it. That's how I do it. I always tell people I use my family a lot whenever things are tough, especially when I remember when I was at the ICC, whenever things got tough, and if they were tough, I always felt better when I got home. Once I saw my family, everything was cool. So it may be different for different people, but you have to have an outlet where you can just show that this is a safe space that I can go into, even if it's just for a little bit before I go back out into the fire.
I love it. And, before we go into war strategies and, the real technical and business talk, can you talk to us a little bit about that transition now? So, you've had an amazing cricket career. And then now, how does that now go into your next transition? What happened next? And then I want to now be able to use that experience into where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, I think I left cricket fairly early. I was 29 at the time.
Wow,
Wasn't enjoy-
29.
yeah, I wasn't enjoying it anymore. It became a job. And I played cricket because I loved it. But like I said, I wanted to play for the West Indies. I did that, and I wanted to do well. But I wasn't enjoying it. It became a chore. It became a job. And I said, look, you're not playing this for the right reasons anymore, or the reasons why you started. Just take a break from it and come back. And I took a break, and then I started to think about what happens after cricket. What will you do? And I started to do some studying. Never went back to cricket. Never thought at the time that I would stop. It was just to take a break and refresh. But like I said, they started to think about what happens after cricket. Went back, did some studying, got a degree in computer science. Opened a business that was doing in computers, and that was doing okay. Got a call. World Cup was coming to the West Indies for the first time in 2007, and I got a call saying, Adrian, we would like you to be cricket operations manager. Never worked in admin and sports on cricket side. And I said, well, look, you're working for yourself, and when you work for yourself, you either get paid or don't get paid. There's a high receivables. And I said, well, look, this is a steady job, steady paycheck for the 2 years or 2.5 years that the contract was for. But more importantly, it was part of history. It was part of being something that was historic in the Caribbean. Cricket operations manager for Cricket World Cup 2007. Absolutely loved it. And a lot of things that I did make in terms of the cricket, making sure that everything is ready for cricket. I used to go ahead of the teams arriving and the match officials arriving to make sure everything was everything. And I remember having a conversation at the time with Ranjan Madagali and St. Kitts, and he basically said, you've done my job for me. Everything that you're talking about, this is what I came here to do. So I said, I don't know what match refereeing is like, but maybe maybe after this I'll try it. And I wrote to the ICC. They explained what the process was. You go through your on board, interviewed for them, didn't get the job, was in the process, was anything, and then I got a call later that year saying, look, we've got this position open as a match referee in the Americas region. We would like you to do it. Um, and I said, hell yeah, I'm in. And I did that, and it was great. I was working my way up to being an elite. So I was a regional referee, but working my way up to being an elite referee. And that was my goal, again, set my goal, and that's what I'm working towards. And the person that I reported to at the time was leaving. Big boss came to me and said, hey, Adrian, you see such and such is leaving. Will you apply for the job? And I said, no. And he was like, why? And I said, because I want to be an elite. That's what I'm working towards. He says, I think you should play for the job. I said, no, I don't think so. This is what I want. And I can see the disappointment in his face when he left. And this is, like I said, this is the big boss. And I went home and I thought about it and I said, well, the boss is telling you to apply for a job, Adrian. You probably should do it. And it was like 2 days to the deadline, and I submitted it. And I still didn't. I still wasn't thinking that I will get the job, because it means that the ICC is a prestigious job. Everybody's going to be applying for it. So I did. And then it came between myself and somebody else, and they called me one day and said, "Hey, I was at the IPL at the time." They said, "We want you to do the job. You start on such and such date." So I flew home from the IPL, spent about 2 days in Barbados, and told the wife, "I've got this opportunity. We're moving to Dubai." And I made a deal with her at the time. I said, "Look, we're going to do it for 2 years. It's a good opportunity. We do it for 2 years. If we don't like it, we come back home." 13 years later, we're still here. So it was yeah. Like I said, it was a great opportunity. I didn't realize at the time that he was basically grooming me for his job. 3 years in, he left, and I became senior manager, match officials, and there, we were off.
Off to the races. So, you talked about your experience in the ICC working within operations. How would you explain operations in a simple way, right? Like, you know, we look at the football field, for example. Like, where's that? What does operations mean within a business?
Yeah. So my role there was looking after the match officials, making sure that that's selection, that's training. We introduced our coaches, so making sure that they had somebody to talk to and mentor them through. We made the program better, so we went through so that's looking at all the decisions that they've taken, understanding where they are, where the errors were, how we can help them move forward. But I was always not one just to stay in my lane. I always want to learn, want to know. So I was involved in the rules and regulations, all the DRS, all the technology. I was involved that's what I brought that through. Obviously, sat on was part of the ICC cricket committees, leading in that way. So that's what it looked like for me. And then at events, just making sure that the match officials and the way the game is run and the cricket side of it was going the way it's supposed to.
So, as a fractional COO, what exactly do you come in and do for one's business?
Yeah. So I like to one of the things that we do, we put structure to ambition. So a lot of people have the ambition, they want to do this, they want to do that, but we put structure to it. The other part of that is, so there's a lot of people need COO or executive type person in there, but they can't afford it. So what we do, what Fractional does, that you get that C level, but you don't pay a C level salary. So I come in and you say, Adrian, we have this, we need it from this time to that time, whether it be once a week for a month, once a week for a month, once a week for 3 months, you know what I mean, or something like that, because the minimum is 3 months, or it might be two days a week, just things like that, or it might be a set time. So look, this is what we require, and I just come in, and at the end of the time, that's your result. So you've got your C-suite, you've got your C that, you've got somebody who's come in and give you a structure and help you get to where you want to get to, but you didn't have to give them a salary, you didn't have to look for visas, you don't have to pay medical, you don't have to bring the family in, you don't have to look for housing. We're there. You just come in. This is what the price is for this period. This is the result that you want, and that's what we do.
So it's like you serve the, I would say, middle market, right? Because the two big ones, of course, they're higher salaries for but it's that middle market who are doing quite well in revenue, but still need, and it's not just consulting part; it's the done for you as well.
Yeah.
And you
So
come in.
I'm not a consultant. So, well, I said I'm not a consultant because I don't come in and say this is wrong, that is wrong. Here's a report. Off you go and stuff. Nah. I roll my sleeves up and I get in there with you. So basically, I come in as part of your team. So I come in at a senior level as part of your team for the period that I am there. But I'm in the trenches with you working. So I'm not up here saying, "Oh, you need to do that. You need to do that." No, I'm in there with you, and we are working our way through it. Provide the strategy, but then also implement it. But we are part of the team. We're not outside of it. We are integrated into the team, and we make decisions. We're part of it for that period that we're there, and we get the result that is needed.
Is there a specific type of business that you like prefer to work with? Is there an ICP? Is it or just all across the board?
Because obviously I'm in sport, but my skills are transferable. I just need to understand where you're trying to get to, what are the constraints and stuff like that. So I do a diagnostic first, basically to understand what's the pain point, what's the problem, and then we write a strategy program. So look, this is where the issues are. This is where you need to move towards, and this is how we're going to do it.
So, what would you say is operations in a business?
Um, just so obviously the CEO looks after the strategy and make sure this is that. We actually make the strategy work. So this is what the strategy is, and this is how we implement the strategy, basically. So whatever it takes to make sure that that strategy gets executed, that's what the operations does.
And I think what do a lot of companies get wrong with their operations? Why do they need a COO in one's business?
Yeah, it's just to make sure that the things are running. Everybody understands, what their role is. Understand why you're doing stuff, not just doing it for doing it still, but understand why you're doing it. Making sure that the timelines that you're supposed to be doing it, that is managed well as well. Just to make sure that everything is running smoothly. It's okay to say, look, here's the strategy, this is what you're supposed to do, but how do we get there? What's the steps we got? What's the SOP? How do we get there? And just making sure that everybody is in tune, everybody understands their role, everybody is bought into it. So understanding, explaining this and this is why we're doing it. And not only that, you may get feedback from the others. So look, we are on the front line. What you guys are doing doesn't work. So on the front line, I'm telling you, this is what works. And we integrate that and we speak and we make sure that everybody understands where we're trying to get to and then how we get there.
Very powerful, and it just builds that operational structure around things. And a little bit on resilience. How important would you say resilience is, for entrepreneurs and CEOs out there?
Yeah, it's tough, and you have to stay the course. But I think the most important thing, and because a lot of businesses fail, and it's pretty high here in the UAE, but not because of vision, not because the persons are working hard. It's just not understanding what you need to be doing and be doing the right things. People get too far ahead of where they're really supposed to be, and that's where we come in and try to pull them back and say, hey, hold on, let's pull it back, understand clearly. You have a great idea, but one of the things that I find as well, do you have a product that you want people to use, or people needed this and you built it? So it's okay to say I have this great product. You might have a great product, but nobody wants it. So you know what I mean. So you need to understand what people want and then build what they want for them. You need to think about the client first, customer first.
Oh, I like that. So start from the customer first.
Correct. Absolutely.
So, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's quite powerful. I do want to talk about the role of doing the right things.
Yeah.
When we talk a little bit about governments and governance, how do you create that framework of trust and accountability? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think one of the things we don't sell. There's obviously services that we provide, but we don't sell services. We don't. That's not what we do. We ask a lot of questions, uh, lots and lots of questions, because one of the things I'm trying to get at, one, I always challenge the status quo. Don't ever tell me this is how we do it, so we'll do it this way all the time. We're going to challenge it. That might work. That might have worked back a while back, but what works now? So we challenge the status quo all the time, and we think differently. So we don't just think the same way. So like I always say, I mean, AGC might not be for everyone because, like I said, we think differently. So we need people who want to challenge the status quo. We need people who think differently. We are innovative. We are creative. But one of the things, like I said, we do. So I'll give you an example. I've got plenty of people say we want to build this. We have this idea, this and that. But we need to diagnose it first. We need to break it all the way down. So I always tell people before you go to surgery, you would never go to a surgery unless the doctor has diagnosed you or given you a scan. You wouldn't do it. So why go into business that way? So before we do a full-fledged feasibility study, we do a diagnostic first and say, look, your idea, is it feasible? Do you need to be spending that money for full-fledged feasibility? I can tell you in 7 days if you should go ahead or if you should stop. Because that saves you money, wasting money doing a full-fledged, and it's not going to work. I can tell you before you do that if it's going to work. So just things like that, just pulling it all back and just giving them. I just want to start you from wasting money. We will look at it first, but strip it back. So we do diagnostics, and that's the analogy I use. You won't do a surgery without first knowing what the surgery is for. So that's how we look at it. That's how we operate. We think of the people, we think of the person, we think of what we're doing clearly, but providing a clear picture. This is what you want to do. This is how you're going to do it. It can work. It's not going to work. No sense going forward.
And the way you broke that down is very quite powerful. How would you define sustainable growth in one's business? And can one grow too quickly? Can one grow too quickly because there's peaks and valleys? What would you call sustainable growth or define it?
Sustainable. I would say. I think one of the first things is that if the business can run without you, that's the first thing. If you have systems and stuff in place that the business can run without you, whether you're there or not. Because what happens is that if everything depends on you, there's bottlenecks and it'll slow it down. So you need to build a system where it can run without you. You obviously need you for the big thing to pick big picture, the vision, setting what people need to go. But you need to build your business that whether you're there or not, the business is running. Because every time somebody needs to come to you to do it, there will be a bottleneck and it will slow you down. So those are sort of things that we try to do, and especially things like facilities. Especially, I've seen so many facilities where we've been asked to come in and look, we're not making this, we're not making that. When you need to build facilities, I call it a flywheel. There needs to be an ecosystem. Yes, there's a main sport, but the main sport is only played on a few days. What else is there around that facility that people will come every day and use? That's the sort of thing you need to be thinking about. And I gave the facility example for that. I have a lot comes to say, look, we want to build a cricket facility. I said, yeah, but it needs to be multi-sport. It can't just be cricket. Cricket is you're not gonna be able to sustain it, and then maintain your facility, and you just won't be able to. So although you have that, make sure that you can play football at a paddle court, or at a nice coffee shop, at a physio. Because what ends up happening is that, and again, one of the things we do a feasibility within the area, understand the demand, what's missing, who your competition, what people want. Because what ends up happening, the people who play paddle, people come for coffee and they see the paddle court, I might try paddle. And then somebody's injured, they use a physio. They may get into cricket. So you just have an ecosystem that just keeps going around and around. That's what drives revenue. That's what drives your ecosystem. Not just the cricket. It's not going to work. So
And
things like
that's
that we try to tell our people and try to say it might be cricket, it could be football, it could be tennis, anything. Yes, that is what drives people to it. That's the main event. But then there are other things along the way. It could be like I said, it could be a sports bar. It could be a nice coffee shop. People like coffee, but there's no nice coffee shop. Put it in your facility. Drive people towards it. You might get membership out of it. You never know. Just things like that.
that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense when I think about it. It's like, for example, you see when Tottenham built that new stadium, and then they do events there, and they do when the
Correct.
football team is when they put a
They have
concert in there.
not only that, American football. They convert it into American football field. There's all sorts of things there. There's sports bar. There's so many different things, conferences you can do. That's what drives it. There's still the main event. It's still a football stadium, but now it becomes not only that. We like our facilities to become part of the community. So we want the community to believe this is our facility, not the facility that's there. This is our facility. So you whatever the, so you do, like I said, they're the client. Yes, you build a stadium and that's the client, but you're ultimately the client is the person who's going to be using the facility. So start with them. What do they want? And then work your way back.
It's interesting because like now that I'm talking to you, so that makes sense now. I used to see that so there was someone like you within who's making those decisions and say, because they loan a lot of money to build those stadiums and things like that. You got to pay those loans back, and you got to make profit. Even just I know it's a big football thing, but now being able to add the extra layers of revenue, okay, that makes total sense.
That's what we do.
So let me ask you, what does the next 10 years look like for you? What's your mission and vision in growing your company in that fractional COO role?
So it's not for me. It's not only a fractional CEO role. One of the things we're trying to do is I always go back. Sport has been good to me, and I don't know where I would be if there wasn't for sport. I also believe that sports gives you opportunities. So one of the things that I'm trying to do now is to build facilities, provide opportunities for people. I don't believe a lack of a facility should stop a youngster from getting where they need to get to. So right now, trying to devise a way where we can have affordable facilities, but good facilities. I just want to make things better in sport because it just gives opportunity. So also it helps governments as well. So if you have a good sports facility and you build a nice calendar around it, then sports tourism starts to come into there. And what does that do? Then your facility starts to create jobs. You know, you build a facility, you use a local contractor. So you're creating jobs. Then someone have to run the facility. So that's what I'm trying to do now in this space is to build facilities, affordable facilities, tech-enabled facilities that creates that ecosystem, that creates jobs, creates GDP, creates participation, allows countries to rise up. Because so we're just trying to do just trying to create better systems, better leadership, better experiences, better opportunities to sport.
And when you just mentioned the L word there, leadership, how do you find good leadership within an organization?
Sometimes the person who has the title is not the one that's the actual leader.
Mm.
Sometimes you just have to go through it. You watch, you learn. People lean on, who steps up, who shies away. Yeah, it's the person, and I always look for someone, and it's not my word. It doesn't come from me. Leaders look after people who are in their charge. I think it goes something like leaders don't need to show who's in charge. Leaders look after people in their charge. So that's what you look for. Somebody who leads from behind, who guides, who allows their people to flourish, who guides them in the right way. So, but who stands up as well, who's there. So that's what you look for. That's what I look at. Like I said, it's not always the person who has the title. You can tell, you just see who people gravitate to, who they turn to, who they look to when things go right, but also who steps up and says, look, yeah, put it on me.
Put it on me and bees in the trenches with you.
Right. Yeah. Someone who's there, right?
Yeah. I like to play a game where I'll give you a word and then
Okay.
whatever comes to your mind, you say one word,
Okay.
and then I can get you to explain it after. CEO,
Strategy.
explain.
So sets what the vision, sets where the company needs to be in 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, keeps it moving forward in terms of vision is what I think of when I think of a CEO.
Teamwork,
Fighting for each other, being there with each other, helping out, guiding, being a shoulder to cry on, you know, being in the trenches together. No matter what, I'm here. I don't like people say, oh, that's not my job. That's not a team. That's not a teammate. That's not a you know. It might not be your job, but you can pitch in and help.
discipline.
Doing doing what you need to do even when you're not motivated. I don't want to do it, but you do it anyway.
You get on with it.
Just get on with it because you're supposed to do it. I don't believe in motivation. motivation is not a word that I use because I can be motivated today and tomorrow I'm not motivated now. But whether I want to do it or not, I'm going to do it because I'm supposed to. That's discipline.
Money.
That's a good one. I guess it's a necessity, but it's not everything. But it is it's nice to have it to be able to do what you want to be able to do, especially for your family.
Mm,
Yeah, I guess necessity.
necessity. Passion.
Have to have it. Have to believe. Have to have a drive towards something. I think passion is important, especially, and it could be anything, but just it drives you towards hopefully being better, um, and doing what hopefully doing what you want to do. So, and if you can find it, if you can find it in a job, my passion was to play for was cricket. It was to play for the West Indies, and I had that opportunity. My passion now is to give opportunities through sport. So that's what that's what drives me at the moment.
Do you think a business owner for longevity needs to have passion to run a successful business?
Yeah, because I think so, and I think one of the things that helps you do is keep going because it's tough. It is hard. There are times when it is lean, but you have to know that this is my passion, and I have to go towards it. And hopefully, you're doing a job that you love. That's the thing about it. It's not really a job. I love doing this anyway, but I think as a lead, as a business owner, I think it's good to have that because you don't give up. You don't say it's hard, it's tough. I don't want to do it. Now you fight through that because you're working towards, you're working in something that's your passion, and it keeps you going.
Because
It is
it's
tough.
sustainable.
No, it can get very tough. So you need to have that spark that keeps you going.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just sustainable. It gives you that longevity because it's war. It is that hard. I agree. Profit.
Now, again, nice to have. It gives you some sort of, I guess, security. You're able to look after your people, whether, like I said, whether it be family, whether it be um, your workers, your workers, your teammates, yeah, your employees. Yeah, it's nice as a company to be profitable, so that you can continue to do the things that you want to do, but also look after your people.
Purpose.
Yeah, you have to have that. That's like passion. You have to have it.
Mhm.
It's what drives you. It's what gets you out of bed every morning. I'm getting up to do this. So yeah, very important.
Adrian, this was absolutely phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. Where can people find you? And how,
You can find me on LinkedIn. Um, AFG Griffith. That's my LinkedIn acronym. You can find me at agconsulting.app, which is our website, or just DM me. DM me in LinkedIn, and we go from there. Like I said, thanks for having me. Enjoyed it as well. Love what you're doing. So continued success to you. I like reading. I like watching your informative. Yeah,
thank you. No,
pleasure being selected to your team.
you heard that intro. My goodness, how could we not select you?
That's
Geez,
good.
like
Thank you.
your background, and we were really intentional. It wasn't just anyone anyhow. It
Yeah,
was no, like people who have been in the trenches. People like yourself. Like it was really intentional to have someone like you.
thank
And I
you.
think also I resonated with being an athlete as well. That was a big thing for me. So no, like I really enjoyed this, and just really on your workload. How does it look for you with someone as busy as you are, and how you're building such a mission and vision? How's your capacity? Can you take on more clients at the moment for the companies who are struggling a little bit with the operations, and also within the sporting realm, which I see so much? My goodness, how is your capacity at the moment?
Yeah, I think we're okay. One of the things we've started now, like one of the big things we're doing now is the diagnostics. That's one of the things we're trying to do now, just to show people, just take a step back and say, look, this is where we are, and be able to help them move forward from that position. Like I said, we'll do it's like a scan. It's like a diagnostic before we do the surgery. We need to understand where you are. So we're pushing that a lot now. It's a nice entry level before you actually do the big stuff. So you come in at the entry level, understand where you are clearly to decide what's next. Should we be doing that big stuff, or should we just pull the plug now. So we will always want to talk and listen to people because that's what we want to do. We want to help. So we will we will put it in the calendar. So feel free to book with us. We'll have a chat with you, understand where you are, and go from there.
Cool. We'll add your details in the descriptions later when we put this on YouTube. And I definitely do, potentially, even partnering in the future who can be able to come in and do work with you and who sees this podcast. And that's why we're doing this for, right? Because there's people out there who need this solution. They just need to know you exist. And this was powerful.
I mean, like I said, we love helping people. That's what we do. That's our purpose, mate, and our passion. Helping people and organizations move forward. Because like I said, this is what gives you opportunities. This is what moves you forward. So we're here to help.
Yeah, and this episode was called Purpose Over Profit. So I think we summed it all up there.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Adrian.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
You have a wonderful day. Thanks.
You too, man. Bye.
Hey, what's wrong? Bro, I'm stressed out. I'm running my business. I've got to serve my customers, but I need more customers coming in. I can't keep relying on word of mouth. Why don't you just use ETS Rabasha Media? Who? Well, with AI now, what they do is they go in, get your perfect clients, bring them in front of you. So all I got to do is run my business and he brings me opportunities. Think about it. You speak to 3,000 of your ideal customers, convert 1% of that 3,000. That's 30 people. 30 people in a room with you. Can you convert that? Of course I'll close them. I'm good at what I do. I just don't have time to be going and looking for my perfect client. Focus on what you love doing and let them bring you customers. When you win, they win, commission, cha-ching. Sujira Rabasha, huh? Yeah, Sujira Rabasha. Go and Google them, man. Come on, take it to the bank.
If you really enjoyed this video, make sure to click here, and I'm sure you're going to love that one.